has joined us. Good afternoon to everyone that has joined us today on Zoom. We are looking forward to getting started with our dynamic conversation on celebrating heritage through architecture. We're going to give just another minute for our participants to populate the Zoom, and then we will get started on our presentation. Okay, I think we should get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stacey Kliesch. I am a past president of AIA New Jersey. Today, I am here as the founding chairman for the AIA New Jersey Equity and Architecture Committee. I am delighted to be moderating an exciting panel talking about celebrating heritage through architecture. We have a number of faculty members and students from Kean Michael Graves College and NJIT Hillier's College of Architecture and Design joining us today to talk to us about their founding stories, how their heritage influences their decisions in career and design, and the impact that Hispanic architects have on New Jersey. Here in New Jersey, we are 21% Hispanic residents. The architecture community is 11% Hispanic. We do have a large Hispanic population of architects compared to other states, yet it still lags quite significantly behind the percentage of Hispanic people in our communities. We know historically through NCARB data and also anecdotal experience that clients of every type best relate to working with architects that they find relatable. And so that would mean either architects that speak the same language as they, architects that have similar cultural understanding, and that is something that either can be learned by a designer or something that is inherent in that designer's upbringing. Here in New Jersey, we are blessed to have two schools of architecture that both have a very vibrant population of diverse faculty and diverse students. And I feel like we are in very good shape to continue moving forward and advancing, building those opportunities and relationships between our architect population and our client population. So today we are going to hear from some practicing architects, faculty, and students on the influence that their Hispanic heritage has had on their school decisions, their career decisions, and their design decisions. And all of this is being done today in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. Our program today is presented by the AIA New Jersey Equity and Architecture Committee and made possible by the participation of our panelists and our committee volunteers. Our course description has been circulated to everyone with your registration documents, and you will also find your learning objectives along with that information. Everyone who's participating in today's program will be getting a learning credit for this, and you will receive that information in the coming days. Our panelists today include Derek Aguirre, an NJIT student, Roberto Arvelo, AIA, NCARB, Lead AP, NJIT faculty, Jennifer Garcia, NJIT student, AIAS Communications Director, Stephanie Sang Delgado, Kean faculty, and Sean Santos, Kean student. I will be moderating. My name is Stacey Kliesch. Okay. Derek, do you want to share your screen?
Yeah. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Am I supposed to answer these questions after my presentation, or is it going to be a separate segment for that?
There'll be a separate section for questions, so you can just present your work and talk about your foundation story and whatever you'd
All
like
right.
to share with us.
Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Is this in the way? Uh, okay. So hello guys, my name is Derek. I'm a student at NJIT currently, and I'm a third year, and we actually just started housing this semester and getting into different softwares that a lot of us weren't familiar with. So we started with Revit this semester. I kind of have some background in Revit, because kind of did that previous semesters. My education background is kind of just I went to a school in Plainfield, New Jersey. That's where I was born and raised. Went to high school in Plainfield, and that's kind of it. That kind of high school didn't really offer much educational programs on like architecture, but I found my way in like wanting to do architecture as a kid when I was introduced to Legos as a kid and that kind of story. Sounds cliche, but as a kid I knew like what I wanted to do. And as I got into like electives in high school and um like those kind of like art electives, I kind of just started to discover more that I kind of like to sketch. And then through my sketches I also started doing more Minecraft stuff, and that kind of inspired us as well, like my passion for architecture. I was kind of one of those kids that used to sit behind their PC, just kind of build a bunch of Minecraft like worlds. And yeah, I was very addicted to Minecraft back then. Um, so this is kind of my presentation of my work. Can you guys see my screen okay, and like my face? Or I don't know, I can't really see it on the other
We
end.
can see your face and your screen. Yes.
Okay, all right. All right. So this project that I was working on is currently the project that we were working on this semester. It's a housing project, as you guys can see. The concept kind of evolved from a modular cube that kind of cascades throughout the site. And the idea of this is to create a space where both the housing residents can like interact with each other through these like gaps between the floors. Because I know like when I've traveled to Honduras like a billion times, honestly, a lot of the malls and like a lot of the open like more like industrial areas have like a lot of like big hallways, and they have like open spaces for like people to like kind of interact with one another in like different floors. So I feel like that really like impacted this project, and trying to use like the difference of like heights and stuff, and then like having like a centrical like kind of like amenity hub for like kind of like really like inspired this project. Same thing in this other like section. You guys can see like how like the interactive part is kind of here, but in between of the other floors is still like prominent. Another project that we had to work on this semester, no, actually it wasn't this semester, was about designing for a person that was blind. That was kind of my task. So you have like an old bathroom, current bathroom, and then I had to kind of like redesign it because it was also not ADA compliant. And this was kind of like my iteration of getting to a bathroom that would be accessible to a blind person. You had to have the section of it, kind of took it as like a section of the bathroom. So like one, two, three, four. If you're in the bathroom, a blind person that can't see needs minimal things in their way. Anything that's protruding is not really recommended. So like if they ever need to grab some stuff, like they'd grab it on these shelves. If you need to use the vanity or the toilet or the shower, it's all kind of like in its own order. This is a couple views of what the bathroom will look like. blind people, really some people that are visually impaired may be able to feel and see through mirrors. So it's kind of like a moving mirror to emulate like more security. So if like they're showering, they may want to move the mirror this way so like they kind of can see the reflection of the door. And then of course light helps a lot. They can feel light, they can sometimes see light, and it kind of helps to give the direction of the day as well. This was one interesting project that we did this semester, like 2 semesters ago, was a parklet. I'm sorry. Okay, there. Um, as a group, it was like 30 of us. We kind of had to conceptualize an idea for a parklet, specifically for a restaurant in Newark in the Ironbound. It was an Italian restaurant, and it was like more like of a bar restaurant. So that's kind of like where these moving tables came apart to be. I took part in like making sure like the roof structure and like some documentation and drawings. This was also a previous iteration of what we wanted our parklet to look like. Kind of had these like moving features, but after analyzing like the material costs and all of that with like the whole like logistics group, kind of thought it wasn't like the best idea. It was gonna go over our budget. This is like kind of cut off for some reason. But that's kind of us like building one of the walls. This is the mini model. This is like our progress for how we got to the parklet. We actually had to build it in school, so we spent a lot of time on campus. This was one of my construction projects that I had to do for class, and I've also gotten my way into speaking to also some other contractors around my area who may need some construction diagrams or drawings to get to the city. So yeah, this is kind of just a breakdown of how the CMU brick wall will go together with like windows and how it's all assembled in the real world. Lastly, I think this lastly is like a housing project we did 2 years ago. It was kind of we were giving a client and kind of met with the client once a week or once every 2 weeks, something like that. And our client, he was this professor. I think he lived in Japan for work, but he resides in the US. And he was really inspired by like these like he really likes arches and that kind of stuff. So we designed that, and we also had like the little moon window in the pit. And this is more like diagrams of how the thing came together. And this is kind of what the whole assembly of the house looked like. Um, and yeah, these are kind of the floor plans. As you ascend into the space, it becomes more private. That was kind of our concept because he said he'd want a house for like 20 people or 15 people because like at the same time they'd be at his house. So this whole space was enough for like the 15, 20 people. That was kind of like the main like lobby slash like of the house. And then these were like the rooms. It was a success with his project because he kind of like liked how we did it, and we had these like skylights and stuff. He said he'd envisioned himself living here, which is a good thing. And this was kind of like the physical model that we built. It was a group project, by the way. Uh, yeah, like we used the project, like the actual model as like our renders or like our views. Came out really good. Spent a good amount of money on this, but it was all well worth. Uh, get to this project. So in our school, we were given this project to install. We were given a space and we had to make installations. Um, our space was this space in between the curtain wall and these like it was like kind of like an awkward space because it's just the entrance right here of the school of our main architecture building. And then like this is like the engineering building and there's like some dorms and then behind this is like a parking lot. So it's kind of like a weird space. There's nothing like cool as you can say like to view outside or anything, but there's also staircases that you can lead to the entrance as well. So my partner and I conceptualized, sat down. We were thinking about what we were gonna do to fill up this space, and we thought about a bench, and we kind of came across this pattern right there. So we kind of came this pattern, combining both the CMU and then the other brick. And that's kind of how we came about this like pattern. We thought it'd be nice to incorporate that into the light. And sometimes throughout the day, we actually have experience like seeing these kind of patterns on the bench. This is a couple views. This is how you view it from the outside in. We incorporated some vegetation because it's kind of bland looking at it from outside in. And these are some dimensions. This is how we kind of figured out how big to make our bench. We used like a mold. It was a really fun project. We actually built it, and here's the final product. It's kind of really identical to the drawings. It took a lot to make, screws, everything. We split the bench in half for efficiency purposes and transportation purposes as well. We have like vertical supports. It's like a smooth like grain. And as you guys can see, it fits perfectly into that corner, which is really, really difficult to make, but we got it eventually. And this is this is my first project actually at NJIT. We were giving a site in the trails in New Jersey, and my whole project kind of revolved around this ramp that you experience different moments, and as you went down into the space, you'd end up in like a space of serenity, which was this. This is where most of the light was, and then like these apertures start to decrease and then increase, and then suddenly it's like a bunch of light. And you kind of can see that here. It's like somebody like relaxing slash like being in peace. And then this is kind of the final model that I fabricated with 3D printer. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you very much. Roberto, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I am Ruperto Arvello, and let me see how we share this.
We can see your
Do you see an image of
Yes, perfect.
a stair, wood stair with an orange back wall?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why I don't see myself or everyone else, but as long as you see that, that's it. So I am Ruperto Arvello. I am a practicing architect in New York City and a first-year studio adjunct at NJIT. And I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to this point. I was born actually here in Newark, New Jersey. And I remember as a kid, we lived in North Newark by Forest Hill. And as a kid, I enjoyed looking at the New York City skyline at a distance, and it always fascinated me as a city and going as a kid to visit it. And at 10 years old, surprise to me, we moved to Puerto Rico. And I had been there many times on vacation, but I never really lived there. So it was a big shock moving to Puerto Rico. And as a kid, I enjoyed art. So my mom took me to take art classes. And I would go to Old San Juan to take art classes with a well-known artist over there. His name is Luis Germán Cajigas. And so I got the opportunity almost every weekend to go to Old San Juan to take art classes with him. And again, I got fascinated with the architecture and the old colonial city over there. So I think it was just this combination of enjoying these two very different cities and the different architecture in those cities at the different scale that really gave me an interest in architecture. So once I graduated well, I actually ended up going to an art school in Puerto Rico, the art school in Condado, Puerto Rico. And at the end of the school, we would choose to select what we wanted to work on in our last year, and I chose architecture, even though no professor knew about architecture, but I did it. And I did then apply to the University of Puerto Rico Architecture School and got a bachelor's degree there. I ended up getting my first job in Old San Juan again, and I worked for an architectural firm there who still exists. His name is Architect, and the owner is Victor Villegas, and we're still in touch after all these years. And he encouraged me to go get my master's, so I decided not to get my master's in Puerto Rico, but decided to come to the States and get a master's. And I attended Syracuse University, which was a great experience, but also I realized how great of an education I also got in Puerto Rico. So I really appreciated that. After Syracuse, I ended up coming back to this area and coming back to Newark again because I still had family here. I ended up getting my first job in Maplewood. And then after that, applied for jobs in New York City and ended up getting a job with a small firm, Silverstein Architects in New York City, being an alumni of Syracuse University. And then after that, applying for corporate jobs. I got my first job at TWA as an architect, and then at Gensler in New York City at Rockefeller Plaza, which was a great experience. And after many years there, I decided to then open my firm, which I opened around 15 years ago. And our focus is mainly interiors architecture. And we do a lot of residential work, commercial, and hospitality work. We're based in New York, but we're licensed also in Puerto Rico and Florida, where we do work. So having lived in both places, I feel I have I'm basically a combination of Puerto Rican American, and I feel like I have both cultures in me. And I think both of them come up in my work. As you can see this image, I love the use of materials. Give me 1 second, my battery's dying.
Jennifer Garcia, if you're able to hear me, we resent you the link to log in as a panelist. Please take a look in your email.
So as I was saying, I love the use of materials, textures, color, and you can appreciate that in this image. As interior architects, we work with the architecture, but also the interiors of the space. So the furnishings, the finishes, lighting, art, everything involved in the space. This is a lounge we worked on in New York City and Upper Manhattan. Again, a lot of combination of the same things I mentioned before: textures, materials, colors. This is actually in that same residence, the first one you saw. It's one of the restrooms. This is a restaurant we worked on in New York City, Cafe Luca, on the Upper East Side. And again, the same ideas of textures and materials. And this is a residence also on the Upper East Side. Typically, our projects are whole gut renovations, so we have a chance to change the space, but then, as I said, manipulate everything in the space from the ground up and get involved in everything regarding the interiors of the space. It's something that, as I said, I think my essence comes out in the work. Obviously, what my clients tastes and desires are also comes out, but it's a combination of both of us. And that's something I try to encourage with my students, that they learn to express themselves through their work, which I think is the ideal, that so we can enjoy what we're doing and get our different tastes and personalities are out in our work. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we are going to move to Stephanie Sang Delgado. Stephanie, if you would please share your screen.
Hi, everybody. Let me just quickly share my screen. Share. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie San Delgado. I'm the co-director of Office Ka with my partner, Galo Cañizares, who's also Latino, he's Ecuadorian. And I'm also an assistant professor of architecture at Kean. So for me, you know, when this question about my Latina identity was kind of like brought up as a subject of this panel, you know, I think for me, what's really important is kind of the layered immigration history of my family. So I am Cuban Chinese, but I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and then went to high school in Orlando, Florida, New York, college in New York, and then I'll tell you a little bit about it later. But firstly, my dad's family, my grandparents, were born and raised in China. After World War II in 1948, they actually immigrated to the Dominican Republic. So my dad is full Chinese, but he's Dominican. So Dominican culture is also a very strong part of who I am. And then when he was 18, they immigrated to New York City. My mom is Cuban. She was born in Matanzas, Cuba. She immigrated to Spain when she was 6 or 7. And then they immigrated to New York, where both my parents met. And then from there, they moved to Puerto Rico because my uncle had started a business, and me and my sister were born and raised in Puerto Rico. When I was right about to start high school, we moved to Orlando, Florida. As some of the panelists I mentioned before about being really interested in architecture from the get-go, I wasn't. When I was applying for colleges, I was thinking of becoming an art conservationist. So my goal was to work in museums and restore and like work in restoration of paintings. So I ended up actually going to college at Ithaca College in Ithaca, New York. When I was studying abroad in London, I was working for the Leighton House Museum, and one thing that I realized while I was there was that I actually had a really strong interest in space and how the space came together. It's kind of this weird mixture of styles in one house, and the actual work of restoration. I also realized, which I think is very crucial, is that I don't have the patience for art restoration. The architecture does require a lot of patience. There's still a lot more tasks and more diversity in those elements. And it made me start to really think about pursuing architecture as a field of study, but also as a career. So after I studied abroad in London, you know, I stayed at Ithaca, got my degree in art history with an architectural concentration. So I focused mostly in architectural history and a minor in art. And then after I went and got my master's of architecture at The Ohio State University, where I stayed there for a little while, worked at a local firm called Design Group, got my license in Ohio. And once I got my license, I really started to think about moving, getting my own practice, but also going full time. And when it came to teaching, because I really enjoyed teaching, after I graduated, I was an adjunct at Ohio State, and worked while working at the firm. So my first full-time teaching position was at the School of Architecture at Taliesin, Weston, Arizona. So I moved to Taliesin, lived there for a few months, and then was also with them when they moved to Arcosanti. At my time at Taliesin, I discovered I met a few Kean students, because Kean has an exchange program with the School of Architecture. So I had a few Kean students. I met the chair. Moved past a year, I ended up going to Texas Tech for a year as a visiting lecturer, and then a position opened up at Kean, which I applied to because I had really great experiences with the students that I met at Taliesin. And then I'm now here in New Jersey. This is currently my 4th year at Kean University. When I started out kind of my professional practice, I started at this firm called Design Group. And it provided me kind of like a really great lens and background to what I wanted to do. Which also leads me to kind of like being in the School of Public Architecture. I was interested in the ways that architecture connects to communities, but also how we connect to urban fabric, how can architecture be, think similarly to what Ruperto mentioned, you know, how can architecture be fun and playful and bring texture and colors? The first project I worked on is here in the bottom left. It was the Columbus Museum of Art. I started working at the firm towards the tail end, so I was there mostly through CAs, casework design, signage. It was an incredible experience to work kind of like on a museum, but also I got to work with the museum staff one-on-one straight out of school to kind of figure out the signage throughout the building. Lots of kerning by hand. For those that don't know, kerning is the space between the letters. I also worked in a lot of higher ed. So we turned this 1908 building from Bowling Green State University and turned it into a science lab. I worked on the culinary school, Columbus State Community College. I was on this project from program to schematics all the way to the end of CA. So it actually led me to realize that I have an interest in food. So then I decided to pursue a second master's in food studies from Boston University to start critically understanding kind of like our relationship or the relationship between food and the built environment. And then also while I was a design group, Columbus, Ohio had this really great program called the Park, called like the Bold Booths, which is like taking a parking spot and then making it into an installation or work of art. So as a firm, we designed this one called Park or Parklet. Hence both. It had the pay machine for the parking, the surface parking, but it was also kind of like an urban park. Afterward, while I was still a design group, me and my partner started to do competitions and started exploring different things. In 2018, we were very fortunate and we won the Ragdill Ring competition, which was to install a temporary installation used for like arts and celebration, and like for kind of different performances. Ragdale is an artist residency, so it has people who are poets, painters, dancers, writers. So you have to create an installation that kind of catered to everybody. And when you're designing for this project, you only get told that the first performance that will take place on your installation is more of a traditional one with kind of like a stage and a band. But then you should provide something engaging for people to use. So our project called Noodle Soup feature kind of these fixed walls that seem to be peeled from the ground. And then these very long bean bags that could be stacked, moved. Kids use them as slides. Artists would wrap it around so it could be like a theater in the round outside. From there, after I got my license, we kind of started to pursue different forms of designing and different ways of thinking. One thing we're really interested in currently is we're interested in kind of the relationship of expected and unexpected results. So we've been doing a lot of creative coding to provide kind of some basis of not necessarily design, but kind of like provide some algorithmic outputs so we can kind of control and then see how we can take that as a design element. So here we have a series of like renderings. We call this triptych on the top left fields. It's currently installed as a mural at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. So if you're in the Midwest, then go check it out. And it was kind of exploring different forms of kinship between human and landscape and architecture and people. We did this project. It was a closed competition for a search engine that we're not allowed to say. But we started to use these packing studies that come from creative coding to then create this, I think it was like 7 feet high by about 45 feet long. Like 3D bas relief structure that kind of starts talking about like the history of technology and kind of how it's interweaved. Lately, we're working on a house. This house is kind of like our first big build project as a practice. It is made out of, we're going to start construction next summer. It is a mass timber CLT house that we funded through our digital art practice. So we're also kind of trying to question kind of the idea of how can we self-fund while also try to more traditional kind of client-based design projects. So this is a mass timber house of ponderosa pine CLT in Conifer, Colorado. We also recently had an exhibition in Barcelona that kind of focused on kind of our relationship with digital materiality. And I think I probably hit my time limit, so that's me.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was really interesting. Sean, you are up next. Can you please share your screen, Sean? Okay, we can see your screen. Sean, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Please turn on your microphone.
Hello.
Yes, there you go.
Hello. I'm Sean Santos. I am a Kean student. This is my 4th year. And well, at first I started off at Brookdale Community College and got my AAS, Associates in Architectural Sciences. And then I transferred over to Kean, where hopefully I'm going to be getting my Bachelor's of Architectural Studies this year. And well, my background is I actually started off doing construction at a very young age. Um, and I was always surrounded by tradesmen. My father was an electrician. I had people doing plumbing, roofing, construction work, and all my dad's closest friends would always come to my house. They would all be construction workers. So I was always surrounded by tradesmen. I did a lot. I did roofing, electrician work, plumbing. I've touched base in everything during high school. So, and during that time, I realized I would rather do less of the physical work and do more of the mental work behind making architecture itself. Because when you're working in the tradesman business, you would see like you can see it come up, you can see how every like part of the house connects. And I feel like that's something that is very important in architecture, where you have to know the manual labor that goes behind the buildings that you are going to design in the future. And I well, a funny story, my first year, my professor, we were trying to go very abstract, very think out of the box. And the first thing I did was drew a grid and then created different patterns, because for me at a young age, I had an interest in creating patterns. I mean, in math, I created a pattern from doing like squaring each number and then finding the patterns. So I could eventually find a shortcut to figure out like what does 152 squared means. It was, I know, may seem a little crazy, but there's method behind the madness. And I feel like logical, more straightforward working can also be abstract in its own mind. And that's where I started off with. This is one of my first year projects. We had to do a bridge connecting Ocean Grove and Asbury Park. If you guys don't know, Ocean Grove is more of a Victorian Aryan style. They are not allowed to change up the different types of housing. It is strictly forbidden to change the structure of the house. And Asbury, as you may know now, is becoming an up and new rising city. It's becoming very industrial, modern age, big glass towers, having restaurants on Cookman Ave. And personally, I grew up in Asbury Park, so I know the connection between these two. So for me, I was thinking about the frame holding up the bridge to show how the structure keeps going as you go to the Ocean Grove side. And you get more light as you're coming into the Asbury side, opening up a new modern age, as I would say. And then when you're going through, it's like you're going back kind of into time through the dark, how the frames add more, creates a darker in the bridge, and it like opens up to age before. And then for my second year, we actually had to create a gallery. So this was already a set building. We couldn't change anything. We had the bays, and we were only allowed to do the interior work actually of it. So I took this to advantage and decided to do drop ceiling. So I studied Charles Rene McIntosh. He was very elegant. It's very light work, and he does like in very interior designs. So I wanted to create this different types of patterns, different heights between the ceilings to give different lightings, highlighting his furniture that he made, which you can see on the section cut axon. And I sort of made that grid system again and proportionally put everything so the lights would hit it correctly as you walk through. Then another one, which I was super proud about, and this is where I started moving on towards my ultimate goal in the future, hopefully, which would be inclusive architecture. So we had to create a daycare for my second year. And I figured out I was like inching around the fact of making a daycare for children with autism, because at first they said just make a daycare. I didn't know if I could do that. So I started focusing on the social, physical, and cognitive areas, what helps kids grow and actually keeps them like all progressed up into stages. Then I have different sensories focus based on the interior courtyard. So the kids during the recess can enjoy. And the interior, like I would say drums, those were they're sensory rooms. So practically it's not to let any light in, and it creates like how Newton cenotaph, the big where it looks like you're looking up into the stars. It's kind of like that, and it has different sensories in like towards it. So it would give the children the break in sensory like stimulation that they need. And this was honestly my favorite project I've ever worked on. I never did so much research. I like every day I kept diving into it more and more. And it's of course because of my brother who's nonverbal autistic. And it made me realize when I was younger, I was like, oh, my brother just doesn't like certain buildings. But now it makes sense. It's certain sensory stimulations. And I always thought it's so unfair that not everyone can enjoy the architecture in the building like worldwide. Not everyone can enjoy the same experience. And it really bothers me because architecture is such a beautiful, like as I grow to learn more and more, architecture is beautiful in its own way. And you don't even have to study architecture to know it's beautiful. So that's what I find gorgeous about it. And lastly, oh, and then lastly, this was my last year's project, which we did trying to clean out Newark because it was heavily populated, very a lot of pollutants in it. One of the major as it says super fun sites. So it was very toxic, and like even the Passaic River, I believe, is if you eat a fish, you have a high chance of getting cancer, which is very insane. So um, me and two other partners, Henry Cataldo and Adrian Blanchard, we worked on three different ways on how we can fix up. So I focused more on the clear emissions. So I used the broken glasses that's on sidewalks, use them, reuse them. You can sort them, make new bottles, or you can even make colored glass and sell the product or even bring it to your own home. And then we were also doing paper making out of trash and using old pallets to make furniture. So our site was right on the park, right next to Passaic River. So the concept is it was a makerhood, and so that means it was a neighborhood and a makerspace. So we wanted the dorming areas to be on the interior of the site away from the traffic, while we wanted the maker spaces to be on the street to advertise, to bring in the community, something that they can do and hopefully make money or bring back home so they can use for their own resources. And then I went through the floor plan, made different type of areas that connected the community all into one. And this was the section cut that sort of showed the different spaces, but it's connected all in one area. So yeah, this is hopefully I will become an architect and have an impact, but I don't think I would have to be world like known like Frank Lloyd Wright, but hopefully in the impact we have inclusive architecture where the whole world can enjoy and every person can enjoy the beauty like we do every day. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. That was very insightful. Next, our last panelist is Jennifer Garcia. Jennifer, can you please share your screen?
Hello. Yeah, I'll share it right now.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I guess my school email isn't
Not
working.
at all. Not at all.
Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Jennifer Garcia. And I wanted to put together this little presentation. I am Cuban. I wanted to tell you a little bit about me. So I was born in Ranchuelo, Cuba, kind of towards the middle of Cuba. And I came to the United States when I was just 2 years old. I came with my parents and we came via boat. So then after I moved to Jersey, around my middle school phase, I had like a video game phase. And basically I was just really addicted to like Minecraft and Sims and video games that let me have creative freedom. And so my aunt realized that I was really drawn to building and drawing. And so she introduced me to architecture in my early high school. And I absolutely loved it from the jump. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. So then by my senior year, I ended up committing to NJIT and majoring in architecture, the 5-year Bachelor of Architecture degree. And specifically throughout my 5 years, because I am a 5th year, I've been drawn to sustainable design, which is kind of a trend that I've incorporated in all of my projects. And recently I had the opportunity over the summer to work at Pereiras Architects Ubiquitous, which is a firm in Union City, and I really loved it because a lot of their clients are Hispanic. And so I love to be able to put both of my languages together, so English or Spanish, and put them to good use. And, just having coworkers with similar cultures and stuff. So some of my work. As I mentioned before, I have a big focus on sustainability. And I like to connect man-made structures and nature and kind of just bridge that gap. The reason that I've been kind of so focused on sustainability is because I feel like it's something that's becoming more and more mandatory. And it's just kind of the future by now. Like we have no other choice, so we should just embrace it and try to figure out innovative solutions to climate change. And so also in a lot of my projects, I like to focus on community and promoting community through public spaces and circulation. I feel like in New York and New Jersey, I have visited Cuba a lot of times after moving here, and there's a big difference because in New York, people pass by each other and they don't say hi, they don't say how are you or anything. You can walk into a beauty salon and no one will say anything to anyone. But in Cuba, it's normal to smile. It's normal to say buenos dias and be friendly with people that you don't know. So I like to kind of promote that community feel through the circulation of my buildings and those public spaces. And then in general, I love to incorporate elements such as like green roofs, solar panels, green walls. And I do work a lot with timber structures with most of my projects. And I also wanted to talk about some architects that really inspire me, especially in the Hispanic community. So Tatiana Bilbao is a Mexican architect, and I really like her because she focuses on sustainability in a lot of her projects and affordability. And so her botanical gardens is kind of a place to explore and interact with nature, but then she also focuses on affordable housing in some of her projects and providing affordable living for low-income communities, especially in Mexico. And then some other architects that really inspire me. These are all Hispanic architects, and I thought that it was important to add because they've all accomplished really big things, and they inspire me to, that I could be the first to accomplish like a variety of things. For example, Luis Barragan, he's a Mexican architect. He uses bold colors, and he actually, his style of architecture inspired the recent Barbie movie, which I thought was pretty cool. And he also got the Pritzker Prize. Sophia Hayden, she really inspires me also because she's like a female architect, but she was the first woman to graduate from MIT with an architecture degree. So that's really inspiring. And then I added Oscar Niemeyer. He's a Brazilian architect and he uses fluid curves, which I follow a lot in my projects as well. I think I guess that's just one of my styles personally to use fluid curves. And he also got the Pritzker Prize. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. If you could stop sharing your screen, we're going to take a few questions. If anyone who's in our audience would like to ask a question of any panelist, please type that into the Q&A and we will get to that question. In the meantime, I wanted to get to some questions that I have for you. So first of all, well, before I do that, I want to mention that I am very hopeful for the future of architecture because of the fact that all of you in your presentations have mentioned things related to organic architecture, sustainable architecture, architecture for special communities, architecture inclusivity. Those are things that practicing architects need to be retaught and introduced into their practice and feel like, oh, now we have this new thing that we need to focus on, where each one of you have mentioned the incorporation of those things as an automatic into your work, something that you don't hesitate to incorporate into every project. And that to me is such a very important thing for clients of tomorrow, because you will be prepared on every project to educate, to inform, to inspire your clients to be planning on things that's better for humanity, better for the planet, and better for all of us. So thank you for that. Would any of you say that part of your Hispanic heritage had a direct influence on either the way you design or the fact that you chose to design for others?
I think what I was talking about before about just kind of designing those public spaces and really thinking about the circulation and where people are walking on a site or in a building, that's really inspired me, taking from that Cuban culture and how everyone is just super friendly to each other, even if they don't know each other. I think that we should design more spaces where people can actually interact.
Wonderful, thank you. Can anyone speak to resources or opportunities at Kean or NJIT that support, celebrate, or encourage cultural diversity?
I think I could talk for the Kean side, unless you want to, Sean.
No,
Well, everybody can.
No, so like I think we have I think as a community, we're a very kind of diverse school. So there's a lot of organizations within Kean itself. Like I always see flyers everywhere for different organizations, whether Ecuadorian, Cuban, Puerto Rican. There's like all of these different kind of organizations coming together. Within the architecture department, I think the fact that the majority of the faculty are also, we have a decent amount of Latinos, Black professors, like honestly, like we're the most diverse faculty I ever taught in my experience teaching. And I think we provide kind of that one-to-one relationship with students about different opportunities. But we also have like NOMAS, we have like a Michael Graves College Association where they do kind of more social events. We have a makerspace club where we're just making stuff. So depending on your interest in different things, we do have like because we are kind of the focus on the School of Public Architecture, we do have like a strong emphasis within all of our studios about thinking about communities and different forms of diversity, and different ways that communities kind of evolve.
Terrific. Anyone else want to add to this answer?
Yeah, I'd like to add also, NJIT also has a lot of groups, and the school encourages diversity. I mean, you could see it in the classrooms. Like we have students from everywhere, not just New Jersey, but from all over the world, and all different nationalities, personalities too. But yeah, the university encourages us, and there's a few associations and groups in the university, especially for Latinos, but all other type of group of people also.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've also personally been at a few events for NOMAs, and as well as this NJ SAC. It's like a club. There's also this other Latino club that I've been interested in to go into here at NJIT. It's like a Latin club. They kind of have like meetings like once a week. And with what I've seen on their Instagrams, they have a lot of like different people from different backgrounds. They have like their countries all in like their stories, like 40 countries so far, like that around the world. And I think it's really interesting because like to know that there's like a lot of like diversity like going on in those clubs. So
That's great. So I'm a past president of AIA New Jersey and currently the equity chair. In my history, in my role, I always try to remind every single member and anyone that comes forward to me that you are equal to every other member that we have. And we don't have a huge variety of subset communities because our membership is, we don't have a huge population of minority members, whether it be, any category of minority representation. And as that result, I like to try to bring everyone together and have community conversation. But I am aware that sometimes it's important for minority communities to see a mentor who is a role model that sounds like them or looks like them or understands their cultural uniqueness. And so I want to pose the question to all of you: how can AIA or the industry better support your goals as an architect and as a member of the Hispanic community?
I think it's exactly what you're talking about, Stacey, is just having conversations and discussions, and just having that collaboration happening. I think I feel happen naturally when people start talking and engaging in each other. But I also think it's our responsibility as Latinos to engage and get involved in these organizations and these entities. I feel sometimes, obviously not this group, but sometimes many Latinos choose to stay in their communities and not get out and engage with other communities. And I think it's very important to have that engagement.
Thank you. Anyone else have any thoughts on this topic? Well,
Yeah.
I want to go ahead.
Sorry, I was trying to think of my experience with AIA Columbus, since like that's where I kind of got my licensure. So I was more connected in that community. I think what was really helpful for me as a recent graduate, trying to figure out like what I'm interested in design, what firms I want to work at, how do I work at a firm, and how do I do all these kind of things. And I'm assuming I'm still relatively new to the scene of like New Jersey architecture, so forgive me if there are things that I do not know. But you know, for us, we had a really strong emerging young practitioner scene that created kind of these bonds across different firms, different kind of like age group from those that just graduated to those that just got licensed, to those that have been licensed for maybe 2 or 3 years. And we formed a lot of networks that way. Like there was a lot of kind of more gradual networks. We also did a community by design event together. So like I remember my team focused on the farmers, like designing a new farmers market for the Clintonville farmers market in Ohio. And we were randomly paired with people from different practices at different stages to kind of create that design proposal. And to me, that was actually one of the most beneficial things because that was only like a year or two after I graduated. But I ended up being able to make friends and connections and people in different tracks of their licensure. You might already have these things. I'm new to New Jersey.
Sure. So I will mention that we do have a very vibrant emerging professionals committee. And one of the things that we have coming up, let's see when the date is. We have an open studio series. So every other week, EPIC does a Friday lunchtime free webinar on I don't take it the wrong way when I say basic, but it's a basic thing that a new hire would need to know in an office environment. So we're trying to create comfort zones so you don't feel awkward saying, hey, I don't know how to do this basic thing. So it's like every other Friday, lunch and learn to learn some basics of things you would need to know in a firm. And then we also have our open studio series. So coming up, it is on Tuesday, October 15th from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Where Malcolm, which is a firm with 28 offices across America, has an office located right in Newark, and they are doing an open studio. And I'll send it to everybody who's on this chat for you to share with your NOMAs and AIAS and students. But we, at AIA New Jersey, I will say that we realize that not all students are prepared to join us right off the bat. And we welcome emerging professionals to join us for events like these so you can get to know our other members, find out what resources we have available to you, help each other network, and to build community from there. So we are very excited about having all of you here today. We hope that you will continue to be engaged with AIA New Jersey. And we look forward to being a bigger part of your community. Stephanie and Roberto, I welcome both of you to call on me anytime if you need guest jurors. I know I've had the pleasure of being on Roberto's juries in the past. Stephanie, you or your colleagues can always tap into AIA New Jersey to have access to local architects to join for desk crits or field trips or anything that we can do to support you. And to Derek, Sean, and Jennifer, I want to say that I'm so inspired for the future of architecture, knowing that the three of you are in it and moving forward with your careers. Here at AIA New Jersey, we offer examination support, path to licensure, advising, and all of that is available to you as a member or non-member of AIA New Jersey. But we hope in the future that you will continue to be engaged with us. Do any of you have closing remarks that you'd like to add before we exit the program today? All right. Oh, go ahead.
All right. I want to say thank you so much again for having me on the panel. And thank you so much for giving us the resources to reach out and hopefully become an architect and a part of the AIA in the future.
Terrific. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Jennifer, I had the opportunity to visit Cuba, and I'm so delighted to meet a Cuban architect.
Oh, that's amazing.
Stacey, I wanted to say thank you also for putting this all together. I know these things are always a lot of work, but it's encouraging to see events like this where we're all getting engaged. And I agree with you. I'm encouraged also by seeing the students and their work and the interest that they have. I mean, it's very important. So it's great to see.
Excellent. Thank you.
Ditto. Ditto to everything that was just said. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And thanks to everyone who joined us. This program has been recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel in the future and will then be available on demand for any of your associates to watch at their leisure. And we will be posting the link through our AIA New Jersey communications channels. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.